Hi, my name is Joni Patry, and welcome to my YouTube channel. Well, today I want to talk about the United States chart just by itself as to what transits, what dashas, what predictive tools I have up my sleeve to see what's going to be happening between now and a year or two from now. So let's pull up the United States of America. This is the chart I use and it works amazing. I have used this chart ever since 9/11 because it clearly states the attack on the United States. And even the pandemic, everything works in this chart. So looking at this chart, it is July 4th, 1776, 6:30 p.m. in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. So most importantly that this chart has is all these planets in Gemini, particularly Mars, Venus, Jupiter, Sun, and Mars being at 0 degrees of Gemini is critical and crucial, especially since we know that Mars in the heavens while it's transiting. Remember, I'm going to be talking about where the planets are transiting in the sky relative to this chart. So you see, this is actually where all the planets were on that day and time and place. But what I start doing is I start looking at where the planets are in the sky, and as they move, we call that transiting planets. They will go in and out of different houses, and as they cross over the birth degrees of the planets, they activate events. So talking about transiting Mars now, where it is in the heavens, it's in Taurus for the most part while it's going retrograde, but it is going to step out of Taurus before it turns retrograde, and it's going to go into Gemini. Therefore, transiting Mars in the heavens is going to transit all the way till 1 degree of Gemini, which means it's going to be sitting almost exactly on the natal Mars of this chart at 0 degrees of Gemini. And this is a huge big deal, okay? So this is a major triggering event. But most of all, it's standing still because Mars is turning retrograde. So it's so much more powerful. The impact of Mars on Mars means there could be some type of attack of some sort, because looking at the United States chart, Mars rules the 5th, but it also rules the 12th houses. Mars rules Aries and Mars rules Scorpio. And this means it could deal with enemies, rulership of the 12th and the 5th. There's a lot going on here with the transit of Mars. Now, let's go over to some other things that I feel like are imperative. And that is the moon in this chart. It sits at 7 degrees of Aquarius. And why do I think that is so imperative? Because coming up here very soon, transiting Saturn is going to be in Aquarius. It already went into Aquarius, but retrograded back in Capricorn. So what does this mean when Saturn nears the moon? It's called Sati Sati. Sati Sati is, well, actually it means 7.5 years. And therefore, it's when Saturn's in the sign before the sign the moon's in, the sign of where the moon is in, and the sign following where the natal moon is in the birth chart. You see, Saturn stays in a sign for 2.5 years. So Sati Sati is said to last for 7.5 years. Now, do I really think that we're all doomed for 7.5 years? Absolutely not. But I always tell my clients, don't go look up Sati Sati on the internet because they'll scare you to death. And that is not true. I feel like when Saturn comes into the sign of the moon is where it really heats up and gets intense. So I think Sati Sati is when Saturn is getting close to the moon. And that's pretty much within the year that Saturn conjuncts the moon. And conjunction means it's the same degree, the same sign. So transiting Saturn is coming to the moon. When will it be exact? Well, Saturn's going to cross over the natal moon 3 times because it goes forward, crosses over it, then it goes retrograde, it crosses over it, then going direct for the 3rd time, it'll cross over that degree of 7 degrees of Aquarius. When? March 19th is going to be the first time it's going to start rolling over the moon. The next is September 20th. To 2023, and the last one is December 3rd of 2023. So basically the United States is going to be in Sati Sati, heavy duty, crossing over the natal moon exactly throughout the year of 2023. What is Sati Sati? Well, Saturn. Saturn is the planet of karma. Saturn is the planet that slows things down. Saturn's the planet that restricts and pulls back. And it's serious. It has a serious nature where things need to change. And the moon being in Aquarius is quite a nice thing because Aquarius is the sign of humanity and caring for others. So this could be that this is a serious time to get things in order and take care of things. Now the moon in this chart sits in the 3rd house. What is the 3rd house? It deals with communications, most of all. Education, communications, learning, traveling, all of these things are 3rd house variables. For looking at mundane astrology, which is the astrology of the world, it's going to deal with the media and it's going to deal with the travel business most of all, because that's what the 3rd house is for. So with Saturn being over the moon, traveling might be interrupted somewhat, as well as schooling and education needs to get in order and needs to be fixed. And the communications with mass media, the internet, all of these things are definitely what are going to have to be fixed, because we all know that the media has been used for all sorts of propaganda. Some of it's true, some of it's not, and it doesn't even matter what side you're on, because whether you're Republican or Democrat, both sides use the media for their advantage, and many times both sides either blow up or exaggerate or actually don't even reveal the truth sometimes. So nobody trusts the media anymore. It's just a fact. Saturn going over the moon here in the 3rd house, things have got to change and be cleaned up so that this is somehow, some way, I can't imagine how, but be prevented. But this is what's going to take place. And the other thing is, looking at this chart, because the moon rules Cancer, if you'll look to the house that has Cancer on it, well, it's the 8th house. And the 8th house deals with big money, government money. It deals with banks, with lending. It deals with other people's money, large amounts of money. So Saturn crossing over the moon as it's the rulership of the 8th house means a big change is coming for banks and industry dealing with money, government money, absolutely. So that's what I see with this Sati Sati. By the way, I went back and you know Saturn takes 28 to 30 years to go through the entire zodiac. And the last time that it was in Aquarius crossing over the moon was 1994. I didn't see anything horribly detrimental happen that year. And then the time before that was 1965. During that time, it was the Vietnam War. More troops were being sent to Vietnam. And actually, in 1994, things were starting to heat up over terrorism and things like that. So I take that back because, you know, even before we had the World Trade Centers destroyed in 2001, in the 90s, that's where they first got hit. So this is important. So things like this are always brewing pretty much for the United States, and the Sati Sati will not give us a freedom away from these type of things. So I can't help but notice that in the next 2 years, to be exact, or 1.5 years, but 2 years, Pluto is going to return to where it was during the signing of the Declaration of Independence here. So Pluto return is massive, major change. Pluto takes about 244 years to go through all 12 signs of the zodiac. It's our slowest moving planet, and it makes a major impact because it is so slow. So look at this. Pluto's about to return in the second house of finances and money. Everything about the financial markets and money has got to change and transform. I believe that cryptocurrency is on its way in. It's going to take a while, and yes, there has to be a lot of regulations about cryptocurrency because I believe businesses will start to exchange money. This is the future. This is not the way Bitcoin's been going, where people hoard it like gold. No, it's a functioning cryptocurrency that I think eventually will take over in terms of money. Once it's able to be monetized and regulated, this will be the distant future. We won't have dollar bills anymore. We hardly do right now because of credit cards. So it's all going to change with the Pluto return concerning the financial markets, money, and what we value, especially what we value with Pluto being there in this second house, and it returns. Pluto represents major, major transformations. It also deals with power, and it can even deal with nuclear power. So we have to be careful about what's going on with nuclear energy these days. Yes, Pluto return may bring something big that concerns nuclear power. It is definitely a possibility looking at this chart. And Pluto has been opposing Mercury in the 8th house for quite some time, and throughout this year. It's still really there right now. And Mercury in this chart does rule the 10th house of presidents. I believe the way that presidents are elected and the different types of parties are going to change, and the rulership, everything about how this country is run has got to change. With Pluto aspecting Mercury, and Mercury's in the 8th house, this means endings and death and change. It's not a good thing that Pluto's on Mercury, and Mercury rules the 10th house of our leaders. So something could happen with Pluto right now throughout the end of the year. I see that Pluto is definitely right there on and off throughout this year and next year opposing Mercury. This is big. And remember, Mercury also rules the 7th house, and in mundane astrology, the 7th house rules opponents. So it could be the people that oppose us. Yes, this is very, very interesting and very extreme. Now, Saturn, as it's reverted back into Capricorn between now and the 3rd week of January of 2023, it's bringing back a cleanup of the economy and the way things have been going with the government. Saturn is going back to clean it all up. Government affairs with the economy and how money is processed through the United States. Something's big is changing. Once Saturn goes into the 3rd house, I think there'll be a lot of completion done. That's around January 17th, okay, that it will be complete. Now, looking at the eclipse, it's going to be happening in the 11th house and the 5th house. This is the October 25th eclipse, and it's the 11th house deals with groups, organizations, people. It's going to change a lot of these organizations in the country. And the eclipse happening in the 5th house, a lot of things about school and education have to change, and they will. It's going to, we're seeing where the change needs to occur. But I believe what Mars is doing, Mars is going to be going through Gemini. And that will be March, April, probably through May or so, that it will be in Gemini, and things are going to get heated up with Mars crossing over all those planets in Gemini. But then looking at when Mars goes into Cancer, this is never good because Mars is debilitated in Cancer, and Mars will be in Cancer next June, July 2023. There's going to be a major change in the economy, and particularly in real estate, because Mars rules real estate, and it's in the 8th house of big money and government in this chart. So Jupiter's been in the 4th house, and that's been a good thing. Jupiter will continue to be in the 4th house till next April 21st of 2023. And this can give the United States some great protection. So thank goodness I'm seeing Jupiter in the 4th house. Protection of the land. Once Jupiter next April goes into the 5th house, this will be protection and changes with children. You know, I think this might even have an effect on gun laws and things like that in terms of protection with children when Jupiter goes into the 5th house by next April. Remember, Jupiter stays in a sign per year, so it will be in the 5th house for the United States, April of 2023 through the end of April of 2024. So anything else going on here? Now, I think I've covered a lot of the big things that are going on. And so most of all, let me get back to one really big thing that I haven't talked about, and the Dasha sequence that the United States is in. Now, this is very interesting because some say you cannot use the dashas because the dasha sequence lasts for 120 years. And of course, this chart is what? Over 240. I mean, it is way beyond 240 years or more, that it's way beyond this cycle of 120 years. But some astrologers say, yes, you can use it. And so, if that is so, I haven't had a lot of experience with working with charts that are this old, right? So, but here's the thing. Currently, the United States is in Rahu Saturn's Dasha till, well, it started November 3rd of 2020, and it will continue till September 10th of 2023. So we have a little over another whole year of this. And if you consider the fact that Saturn, Rahu Saturn sits in the 10th house, dealing with government leaders, the presidents, vice president, whoever's running the country, this is the 10th house, and Saturn's there. And Rahu sits in the 8th house. The 8th house is endings and transformation, change, but we know what can be some very difficult endings. It could deal with finances and money too, being in the 8th house. But the fact that Rahu's in the 8th and Saturn's in the 10th changes, it's all over the place. It couldn't be more clear. Major changes in governmental rule and in the economy and how money is being processed and used, and in communications. All of these things are due to change within the next year or year and a half, 2 years. So with that, I think I'll close. But remember, if you want to receive all my predictions free, delivered to your email, go to my website and sign up for my free newsletter, which is galacticcenter.org. O-R-G. And remember, if you want to study Vedic astrology with me, go to my university website. It is an amazing community of Vedic astrologers. Go to universityofvedicastrology.com. Thank you.